looking for you. Scooby Doo, where are you? All the stars are here, waiting for you. Couldn't have a show without you. Scooby, Scooby-Doo, Scooby, Scooby-Doo.
Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 1 Episode 12 review of the new Scooby Doo movies. So last time I continued my 2024 summer special with a review of Season 1 Episode 7 of Scooby Doo Where Are You, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course today I will be covering Season 1 Episode 12 of the new Scooby Doo movies titled The Ghostly Creep from the Deep, which was released on November 25th, 1972. The short synopsis of the episode is, when the gang become lost in a swamp, they meet up with the Harlem Globetrotters. They soon find that the ghosts of Redbeard the Pirate and his crew are trying to get rid of them. But why? And who is this strange, mysterious local hermit? So today's guest stars are the Harlem Globetrotters. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, a lot of you probably should know who the Harlem Globetrotters are. Even if you're not a sports fan or a basketball fan, you've probably at least have heard of the Harlem Globetrotters, as they're not your typical basketball team. They're very much a different type of basketball team. They like to do theatrics and do things that wouldn't be allowed in a normal basketball game, but showcase, a bunch of new crazy tricks. For those who don't know who the Harlem Globetrotters are, here's especially their history, or at least these old school Globetrotters, because some of you may know them. Most people my age probably won't know the 70s Globetrotters. You're probably familiar with the Globetrotters as a whole, as a brand, as a team, but not, the old school Globetrotters. So here's just a quick rundown of who the Harlem Globetrotters are. So the Harlem Globetrotters are an American basketball exhibition team, and they were founded in 1926. They're known for combining athleticism, theater, entertainment, and comedy into their style of play. There are 4 team members of the 6 in this episode, and, future Globetrotters episodes, that were real members, and I will go in depth with them, as well as the 2 fictional ones, as well. But here's who the team members of, the real team members of the Harlem Globetrotters, who they were. So you had BJ Bobby Joe Mason, who was born on April 23rd, 1936 in Centralia, Illinois. And he unfortunately passed away on July 4th, 2006 in Springfield, Illinois. Then you have Fred Curly Neal, who was born on May 19th, 1942 in Greensboro, North Carolina. And he unfortunately passed away on March 26, 2020, so not too long ago, in Houston, Texas. Then you have Meadowlark Lemon, who was born on April 25th, 1932 in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he unfortunately has since passed away. He passed away on December 27th, 2015 in Scottsdale, Arizona. And finally, you have J.C. Gibson, who was born in 1932. There's not much information about J.C. Gibson. But he was supposedly born in 1932, when I don't know, and he unfortunately passed away in 2009. I also don't know when that happened, but that's the year he died. But these were the 4 out of the 6 Harlem Globetrotters members in, the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and in these Scooby-Doo episodes that were actually real. But, however, these 4 did not voice themselves in the Harlem Globetrotter shows and in these episodes. So I'm going to go into that in a little bit on who the voice actors of the 4 real members of the team were, as well as the voice actors for the 2 fictional members. Now, outside of basketball, the Harlem Globetrotters have had a lot of different, types of entertainment, between movies, TV shows, specials. You know, they've done a lot outside of basketball and have made appearances. However, for the purposes of this review, I'm going to be focusing on the Hanna-Barbera incarnations of the Harlem Globetrotters. So I'm not going to go in depth on the other stuff that the Harlem Globetrotters were in. If you want to know what they were also in, you can see that online. There's a lot of information out there. But essentially, before the new Scooby Doo movie started, there was a Harlem Globetrotters animated TV show by Hanna-Barbera. And I'll tell you who the voice casts were. But before that, the show was just simply titled The Harlem Globetrotters, and it ran for 2 seasons and 22 episodes from 1970 to 1971, so it must have at least been somewhat popular, or at least, you know, pretty good for it to get 2 seasons and 22 episodes. Now, there are 2 characters in the Harlem Globetrotters show that don't make it an appearance in the new Scooby Doo movies, but they are referenced to. So one of these characters is the Harlem Globetrotters mascot dog called Dribbles. He doesn't appear in any of the Harlem Globetrotters crossover episodes in the new Scooby Doo movies, but he is in the original intro. Now, if you watch the newer intro, which is the one I show now, you won't see the guest stars in it, but there was an original intro that did have the guest stars in it, and the Harlem Globetrotters did have a sequence where they were running, and Dribbles was in that sequence. So it could have been possible maybe he might have been considered to put in, but I guess they would have figured having 2 dogs in there might have been a little confusing. You know, having a mascot dog there along with Scooby would, who knows if that would have gelled well at all. And then, of course, there's also the Harlem Globetrotters team coach, who they call Granny. She's not in the show at all, you know, in the new Scooby Doo movies at all. She's not in the intro either, but the Harlem Globetrotters do make reference to Granny in this particular episode. There is a scene where I think they mentioned that she went to a dog show with Dribbles to take care of him while the Globetrotters went to go do their basketball match. Now let's get into who voiced the Harlem Globetrotters in the show, as well as the new Scooby Doo movies and their other TV show. So starting off, B.J. Mason was voiced by Eddie Anderson. Eddie Anderson was born on September 18th, 1905 in Oakland, California, and he has since passed away on February 28th, 1977, so not too long after these episodes aired. Curly Neal was voiced by Stu Gilliam, who was born on July 27th, 1933 in Detroit, Michigan, and he unfortunately passed away on November 10th, 2013 in the Czech Republic. Meadowlark Lemon was voiced by Scatman Crothers, whatever, I don't know how you pronounce that, who was born on May 23rd, 1910 in Terre Haute, Indiana. And he has since unfortunately passed away on November 22nd, 1986 in Van Nuys, California. Also, fun fact for Scatman, he actually also voiced another popular Hanna-Barbera cartoon who you may recognize, Hong Kong Phooey. Gib Gibson was voiced by Richard Elkins, who was born on June 3rd, 1934 in Cleveland, Ohio. And surprisingly, he still is alive today at 90 years old. So he's still alive and kicking, which is great. And then we have the 2 fictional members of the Globetrotters who don't exist in real life, but we'll get into who they're voiced by. So first, there's Gesse Ausbie, who was voiced by Johnny Williams. Not much is known about Johnny Williams, when he was born, if he's still alive. It seems like he still is. There seems to be credits that suggest that he still is kicking it around. There's not much about him, but it seems like you may recognize him from movies such as The Goodfellas, which I like, and The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie. I don't know what roles he played in those movies, but he might have had small bit roles because I don't think he was a major player in the cast. But it seems like he might have had bit roles, small roles in those 2 movies. So I guess next time you watch Goodfellas or The Mask, try to look for Johnny Williams. There's a picture of him on the Scooby Doo website, I believe, or, online on IMDb, and maybe you'll be able to catch him. And then finally, there's Pablo Robertson, who was voiced by Robert Dupuis, who was born on April 20th, 1934 in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and he unfortunately has since passed away on February 9th, 2008 in Los Angeles, California. Now, another fun fact for you. You may know Robert Dupuy as the Sergeant Warren Reed in the original RoboCop films. I've not actually seen the RoboCop movies, but if you guys are RoboCop fans out there, then yes, he played the Sergeant Warren Reed in those movies. After the Harlem Globetrotters made their appearances on the new Scooby Doo movies, they did have another show afterwards. So that at the time of this episode, there wasn't really anything going on for the Globetrotters. It was just these 3 episodes. But they did get another show. It was called The Super Globetrotters. It ran for 1 season and 13 episodes, and it began in September of 1979, and it ended in December of 1979. So it lasted only a couple months the same year, basically the end of the year. I don't know if it has any connection to the previous Harlem Globetrotters show. Probably not. Hanna-Barbera is not really big on continuity-wise, so it probably is just a whole new different type of thing. But yes, they did have a sequel show after that, and then that was the last of the Hanna-Barbera Harlem Globetrotters. So as per usual, I'll be watching Season 1, Episode 12 of the new Scooby Doo movies on the new Scooby Doo Movies, the Almost Complete Collection. This collection has all the episodes of the new Scooby Doo movies, minus the Addams Family episode, and it has, good special features on it, which I'll get to talking about in my Season 2, Episode 8 review, so you can look forward to me talking about it then. Now, what's my experience with the Harlem Globetrotters? I know who the Harlem Globetrotters are. I've seen the Globetrotters in person. Let me preface this by saying I'm familiar with the modern-day Globetrotters. I am not as familiar with the old-school Globetrotters, the 1970s Harlem Globetrotters. I didn't. That was before my time, so I didn't see them in person. I'm not too familiar with them. But I have seen the Globetrotters perform in modern day, and I have seen them. A lot of. I've seen shows of them before. And as you guys know from my second channel, I am a big basketball fan, specifically a Boston Celtics fan. I love basketball. I'm a big Boston Celtics fan. That's my team. So basketball is something that I really enjoy. I love basketball. I liked playing it when I was younger, and I liked watching the Boston Celtics. And that, grew my love for basketball. And Harlem Globetrotters did a little bit too, seeing their show, go on. They made their shows the modern day shows were pretty fun, and they did a lot of cool tricks. So yes, I know who the Harlem Globetrotters are, but I'm not specific. But when I say that, I really only am familiar with the modern day Globetrotters, not necessarily the old school Globetrotters. That is new territory for me. That's just before my time. And I never watched the shows with the Harlem Globetrotters, the Hanna-Barbera incarnations. So I'm not familiar with those incarnations either. But I know who they are. I'm familiar with them. But as far as how this episode is received, I think most fans like this episode, at least from what I hear. It does seem to have some good reception, over the coming years. But will it live up to its expectations? Will it be a good episode? Well, why don't we take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of the new Scooby Doo movies. The episode begins with Scooby and the gang traveling and becoming lost in the swamp. Fred then asks Shaggy to look for a road sign, but once he looks back, Shaggy discovers that a swamp monster is after them. Fred speeds up the mystery machine, but it is going so fast that Fred can't stop when the road comes to an end, and the mystery machine ends up getting stuck in the swamp mud. Then the gang see a mysterious ghost pirate ship, but are not sure if they really saw the ship. I don't know why they suspect it's really ghostly, because it just looks like a normal pirate ship. It's not like glowing or anything. But I guess because they think pirates are a thing of the past, that's most likely a ghost pirate ship. The situation worsens as the swamp monster approaches the gang, but when it comes too close, they realize it's only a van and the Harlem Globetrotters are in it. Once they all get to know each other, they decide what they're going to do next, what their next course of action will be. And then they see that an inn is present in there, so they all decide to spend the night at the old inn. But an old man named Swampy Pete warns them to stay away from the inn because of the ghost of the pirate Redbeard and his crew. The gang don't heed Swampy Pete's warning, and they go inside the old inn anyways. And meanwhile, Meadowlark with Shaggy and Scooby decide to bring the Globetrotters basketballs back because Meadowlark is very superstitious, and he has a lucky ball that he doesn't want to lose. The inn is closed, so they break the door down and go inside the inn. And inside the inn, Shaggy starts to joke about no one in the inn except us chickens. But a very evil and villainous laughter is heard with footsteps. So they all hide, and then it is revealed that it was Swampy Pete who's scaring Scooby and the others because he wants them to leave and get away so he can because it's revealed that he's trying to, get them away from Redbeard. After some time, the laughter is no longer heard, and then they decide to play, a basketball game to divert their minds from, the spooky stuff. And it does end up working, and we get, a little, basketball, match between the Scooby Gang and the Harlem Globetrotters. They all get tired, though, and so they decide to go to sleep, and Meadowlark has Curly, stand the first watch, so nothing happens to them while they sleep. One by one, each male is on their guard if someone ends up coming, and meanwhile, outside on his ship, Redbeard realizes that someone's at the inn, and so he and his crew decide to scare whoever's at the inn. Near dawn, Swampy Pete comes warning that the ghost of Redbeard and his crew are coming. They all get up and hide. Once inside, the pirates get surrounded by Scooby and the gang when threatening Shaggy, who is found by the pirates first. Shaggy and Scooby jump up because they think Redbeard and his crew touched them, and the gang all, reveal themselves, and the Harlem Globetrotters reveal themselves and surround them. And we get a small but funny fight breaking out to defeat the pirates, and it is pretty entertaining. But once dawn breaks, Velma questions the pirates, claiming that if they're ghosts, then they should be gone, vanishing with the dawn as dawn has arrived. I don't know why Velma's come to this conclusion, because ghosts aren't... sure, ghosts are creepier at night, but it's not uncommon for ghosts to, haunt during the day either. It's not like a night thing. They're not like vampires. But I do like the funny, little fight scene between the Harlem Globetrotters, the Scooby Gang, and, Redbeard and his crew. Even though it comes at the detriment of the villains and makes them look pathetic and lame, it is pretty funny seeing the Globetrotters and the Scooby Gang out with them, and I do enjoy it. It has a lot of great humorous moments.
Mere mortals against Redbeard's ghost. Round them up and put them all in the brig.
Aye, aye, Redbeard. They're as good as got.
Here, have a seat. I have these too.
Oh, yeah?
What hit me? Hey, team, split up and scram. I'll hold them off.
With what?
This.
Shag, Scooby, look out!
I gotcha. Oh, yeah? Going out.
Pabs, it looks like we have company.
I'll go welcome him. Alley-oop.
Coming through.
What hit me?
Oh, Sean, I'll get one in the net.
Catch. Catch.
Thanks, fellas.
You can't escape me. I better. Gotcha. Any last words? Just two. What are they? Happy landings! Help! Help! Somebody stop me!
This way out, sir. Watch your step. I told him to watch his step.
At the same moment, Velma, questions the pirates, not vanishing with the dawn. A helicopter is seen circling the surrounding area, and then the pirates escape via smoke and switch the lights off. And once they turn on the lights, Scooby and the others can't figure out how the pirates escape since all the doors are locked. Then Scooby and Shaggy accidentally find a trap door, but fall in a motorboat which the pirates are escaping in. They cover themselves with a red sheet, which was already in the boat. The pirates then head off to their hideout, and meanwhile, up at the inn, all are distraught that Shaggy and Scooby have disappeared. So Velma also accidentally finds the trapdoor and sees more boats down there, and concludes that this was the way the pirates escaped. Then they see the boat with the pirates and see Scooby with a sign held up reading "Help" with his paw. And being on the boat, Scooby and Shaggy leave a trail of Scooby snacks, even though they don't want to, hoping that the others would find them, but the trail is being eaten by fish. Back at the area below the inn where the pirates escaped, Fred and the others take a motorboat to follow the trail of the biscuits being eaten by the fish. Hence, they follow the fish eating the Scooby snacks. And the pirates then arrive to their hideout, hid behind a large leaf curtain, and the hideout has a barge and oil ridges. Then Scooby sneezes, and he and Shaggy are caught, but they escape and hide in the ship after the pirates' unsuccessful attempts to catch them. I do find the chase scene with Shaggy and Scooby and the ghost pirates, pretty funny. The first one's pretty funny with Shaggy saying that Scooby's allergic to ghosts, and then, they evade, this guy who says he's like, he calls himself Slippery Sam, and, can, keep his feet, together on slippery ground, but he ends up getting proven wrong because Shaggy and Scooby make him slip. So I do like the first chase scene with, the ghost pirates.
You'll give us away. I'll give you away to the sharks. What be you doing here?
Shh. Oh, we're trying to get rid of his allergy.
What's he allergic to?
You.
Stop them!
Well, I guess that's the way the old ball bounces, Scoob.
Yeah, bounces.
Bounces? That's it, Scoob. Let's give it the old 1-3.
1-3?
1, 2, 3.
So, you want to play games, eh?
Faster, Scoob! That bucket is gaining on us!
They don't call me Slippery Sam for nothing.
Quick, Scoob! Down the hatch!
Hey, get me out of here!
Har! If you want something done, you gotta do it yourself.
And then we get another funny chase scene where Shaggy and Scooby think they've lost, the ghost pirates. And so they look for an exit to get out and sneak away. And one of the doors they open shows Redbeard. Why Redbeard was standing behind that door is unknown to me. I don't know if he was walking that way and heard them and stopped. I don't know if he just figured he'd stand there, and hope that Shaggy and Scooby would be there. It was very odd, but I will say it's funny, the shenanigans Shaggy and Scooby do when they open the door and realize Redbeard's behind it. Then they run away, and then it just makes it look like it does come at the detriment of the villains. Like I said, it makes them look like bumbling idiots, but it is pretty funny seeing the gang, specifically Shaggy and Scooby in the scene, outwit these idiot pirates. Even though it is funny, it does make them look like fools and like idiots. But I do enjoy the second chase scene with Shaggy and Scooby, evading these idiotic pirates, in this hallway.
Maybe that's the way out.
Oh,
Are you sure? That's for sure.
Think you're gonna get away from Redbeard, eh?
We can sure try. Come on, Scoob.
Which way did they go?
that way.
Thanks.
Oh, you clumsy fool! After them!
Aye, aye, sir.
There's a way out. Any porthole in a storm.
Huh?
Do you have the feeling this is where we came in?
Yeah, I do.
Shaggy also pushes a lever which makes the barge pop out sails and the mast, and Fred and the others finally come to the curtain which is, hides the hideout of the pirate crew. There, Swampy Pete is radioing someone. We don't know who, but we find out in a little bit. They cannot decide where to go, but a scream from Shaggy helps them find the hideout. They all go through the curtain, which snaps and falls on them, and this makes the pirates scared since the curtain makes Fred and the others appear like a green swamp monster. But they are, unveiled, and the pirates again try to capture Scooby and the others. During this, Shaggy gets mangled in a pipe, and the pipe is broken, spewing a black liquid. Because Swampy Pete tries to get Shaggy and Scooby's attention, and Shaggy and Scooby get scared of him. This time, the pirates are successful in cornering Scooby and the others, but Swampy Pete helps them escape. And during their escape, Scooby accidentally pulls the lever that pops in the sail and mast and a cover of the barge, trapping Redbeard and his crew. At the end, Swampy Pete reveals himself to be a harbor patrol officer that had been after Redbeard and his gang for some time, and Scooby and the gang helped him capture them. It is revealed that Redbeard and his crew were not ghosts, but just oil pirates in disguise to tap oil from the ridges and sell on their own. The ghost setup was to keep people away from the area while he and his crew did the dirty work. And then the episode ends with them all going to the Globetrotters game in the police helicopter. We also get a basketball sequence, but it's not important, and I'll get into why, I don't like this basketball sequence in a little bit. I'm going to give Season 1, Episode 12 of the new Scooby Doo Movies 1 star out of 5. Yeah, surprisingly for me, this just wasn't a good episode. I just didn't find it one of the better episodes of the new Scooby Doo Movies. It has so many problems with it, and I will get into that, but of course, I want to talk about the positives first, because there are good aspects to it. There almost wasn't, but I was able to find some good aspects to it. So let's start off with the positives first, before I get into why this episode, for me, is a very weak and, disappointing episode. So starting with the positives, my first one is that I like Shaggy and Scooby in this episode. I feel out of all the members of the gang, Shaggy and Scooby were the ones that did a pretty good job. Now, they were close to almost being not as good, but thankfully they were their usual funny, cowardly selves and had a lot of great humor in this episode. And I think without that, Shaggy and Scooby would have been just as weak as the rest of the gang. Thankfully, they had some good humor in this episode. They were their usual funny, cowardly selves, and they worked. This was a good, good outing for Shaggy and Scooby. And then my second and final positive is I did find the guest stars of the episode, the Harlem Globetrotters, to be decent guest stars. Kind of like Phyllis Diller. They were decent. Not good, though, but definitely not bad either. I guess to explain why, I do think they have a great group dynamic. As a group, the Harlem Globetrotters play off each other well. They have a good group dynamic, so there's no faults there. And I will say they do have small moments of chemistry with the gang here and there. But for the most part, I didn't feel like they were executed as well as they could have been. I don't feel they were used to their full potential. I'll get on to the mystery later, but essentially, they didn't try to help the gang solve the mystery. And while there was small moments of chemistry here, I don't feel it was as executed properly and as well as it could have been. It was there, but not to the extent I would have liked. Yeah, they had a great group dynamic, but I don't feel this was the best representation of the Harlem Globetrotters in a Scooby-Doo episode. Thankfully, they do have future episodes, so hopefully those future episodes build upon what this episode failed to do. But as a first episode, I think the Harlem Globetrotters did a decent job. They weren't bad, I didn't hate them, but I didn't love them either. I think they were just okay, they were decent. Like Phyllis Diller, they did the best with the material they were given in this episode, but I don't think they were at their full potential. I don't think they were executed as well as they could have been. That's all I got for positives, though, so I think it's about time we get on to the negatives of the episode. And there's plenty to talk about, but I guess where we'll start is the gang themselves. So outside of Shaggy and Scooby, Fred, Daphne, and Velma were not great in this episode. I wasn't really happy with their utilization. I thought they were weak. They did have small moments of humor, like in the little fight scene they had with the Redbeard and the pirates in the inn. They had small moments of it, like Fred and Daphne, and Velma had her moments too. But for the most part, I don't think it was enough, and I think Fred and Velma did not fulfill their usual roles. I don't think Fred was really much of a leader in this episode. I think that they all kind of just, they all just kind of collectively as a group did, would play off each other and figure out where they needed to go next. I don't think Fred really was the one that's saying, let's go here, let's go there. He wasn't the guy that was taking charge in my mind. And Velma wasn't really piecing together any clues to help solve the mystery, so I don't think she did that. But I also don't think Fred and Velma were doing the opposite either. I don't think Fred was piecing together to solve the clues of the mystery, and I don't think Velma was much of a leader either. And Daphne wasn't given really as much as to do either. So, yeah, they had small moments of humor, I'll give you that. But other than that, Fred and Daphne and Velma, pretty weak in this episode, pretty underutilized, could have been used a lot better. Now, I have a minor negative of the episode that I think needs to be addressed, and I kind of mentioned it at the end of my review section. I am not a fan of the basketball sequence at the end. Now, you guys heard me in the intro. I'm a basketball fan. Well, I'm a Celtics fan, really. But I like basketball. I like watching the Celtics play, and I liked watching the Harlem Globetrotters play in person. And I do like playing basketball. I guess the reason why this sequence doesn't work is, for me, I'm not really looking for that in a Scooby Doo episode. Yes, I understand the Harlem Globetrotters basketball is going to be a thing. Obviously, that's their shtick. But they're guest stars in a Scooby Doo episode. I don't feel this sequence was necessary. And I think they could have just cut it out, or at least condensed it a little bit smaller to where it wasn't too much. And I really hope this isn't the case in the next two episodes, because I really don't think it was necessary to show us the Harlem Globetrotters playing against a team for, like, I don't know, what was it, like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5? It just felt very unnecessary. It kind of felt like padding and filler, like they were just trying to fulfill the rest of the runtime, and I felt like they could have, cut the sequence out, and it wouldn't really have done much. We don't need a basketball sequence in a Scooby-Doo episode. Yes, the Harlem Globetrotters are the guest stars, and basketball is their shtick. But I feel like the mini game they had in the hotel, the inn, I felt like that was enough. I don't think we needed to see an official game, unless if it serves the story and the plot of the Scooby-Doo mystery. I don't think it's needed for us to see this basketball sequence. So maybe some will disagree with me, and that's fine. But for me, I don't think this basketball sequence is necessary to this episode, and I think it could have just been cut out. And it didn't serve any purpose to the plot or the mystery or anything. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that real fast. Then we have the villains of the episode, which is the Ghost of Redbeard and his pirate crew. Now, this is a really lame and weak villain, and there's a lot of problems with this. First off, we never find the identity of Redbeard and his pirate crew. So, for all intents and purposes, it could honestly just be C.L. Magnus and his lackeys from Go Away Ghost Ship. I mean, it's most likely not, but it could have been them, and I wouldn't have questioned it, because they never answered the identity of it. And this guy's literally wearing the same costume as Magnus and his goons in Go Away Ghost Ship. They're just painted white, and that's really the problem, is that these are just reskins of previous villains we've already seen in Scooby-Doo, and that feels lazy. That's why they're lame and weak. And it's not just that they're reskins. They're not scary or threatening villains, but they're also not fun or entertaining to watch. Yes, I did say that I liked, I thought the scenes where Scooby and the Globetrotters, outwitting them was funny, but it didn't make them funny. It was just funny that these kids and these professional basketball players and this talking dog were able to outwit these adult men these idiotic adult men that should be able to defeat them. And it made them look like buffoons and idiots, and they were awful. Like, they literally had to use a fake trick just to get them to submit. The gang and the Globetrotters were kicking their ass. Like, it was fucking funny. But it was funny from a sense, like, it shouldn't be happening. But I'm still laughing, but I'm laughing at them. You know, I'm not laughing with them. I'm not relishing in their villainy. You know, I think they look lame and weak, and they're just reskins of previous Scooby Doo villains. It reeks of laziness, and it feels like this episode wasn't given the proper writing attention. Like, they just churned this out and didn't give much thought to it on the villain side. So it's lazy, it's repetitive, and it's something we've already seen before. So yeah, the villains are lame and weak. They're not good. They're just white reskins of previous, you know, villains we've seen, which is Redbeard and his pirate crew from Go Away Ghost Ship. Like I said, it could honestly, even though it's highly unlikely, because we never find out the identity of them, it could honestly be CL Magnus and his goons again, for all I know. Then we have another problem that I just mentioned, which is the outside of costume, you know, part of the episode. We never see these guys outside of costume. Not at all. We don't get to suspect them as suspects. We never see them unmasked at the end. They are just some random oil pirates, and that's all they're called. They're just called oil pirates. They're given no names. We never find out who they are. We never know their identities. We never find out, you know, who they are, you know, and so, like I said, it could honestly be CL Magnus and his goons. And, I mean, it wouldn't make sense that they would have recognized Scooby and the gang if that was the case. But it's funny to think that it could possibly be them, because we never find out the identity of these guys. And that's also lazy, too, because, you know, that takes away, you know, being able to figure, you know, getting to know them more outside of costume. So they're also weak outside of costume because we never get to see them outside of costume, and we never find out who they are. Then we have their motive. Their motive was that they wanted to steal oil and sell it. Plain and simple. And it's bland and repetitive. It's something we've seen before. It's basically mind your own business, but in a watered down, bad, lazy version, you know, of it. There's no flavor to this motive. No uniqueness to it. It's just plain old stealing oil, selling it. Nothing special with this motive. And look, I've said in the past, like, I know Scooby-Doo's going to run out of motives. You know, it's going to happen. You know, they're not going to be able to be that unique with it. So I don't mind when they reuse motives. It's, do they add more elements to make it interesting? Because if they're just using the base of it, it makes it boring and bland and repetitive, and it basically comes across as like a lazy, watered-down version of the motive, rather than being creative and taking that same motive and being like, okay, we've done this motive before, but let's go in this direction and add this flavor to it. You know, it gives, you know, just to have it stand out a little bit. So, like I said, it's not necessarily that the motive is reused. I don't mind reused motives. It's that it has no uniqueness or flavor to it to make it stand out. So it just comes across as bland and repetitive and something we've seen before, but done better. Because at least in Mind Your Own Business, there was layers to Hank's operation. Here, there's no layers to it. It's just bland and boring, and it's just a base version of that. So, yeah, pretty uninteresting motive. Pretty bad, boring, bland, and repetitive. There was also a lack of suspects in this episode. We only had one suspect, which was Swampy Pete. And he hardly counts as a suspect because, you know, I'm only giving him that because they did give him a good chunk of time where he was a suspect. But they showed pretty early on that he's not a bad guy. They paint him in a light where he's just supposed to be a red herring. But you find out pretty quickly that he's trying to help the gang. He even says, I'm doing it for your own good. So it's pretty obvious that he's not the villain, because he wouldn't be warning the gang about Redbeard the pirate and his crew if he was Redbeard. you know, he wouldn't be doing that. So, yeah, there's only one suspect, and he's a red herring, and we find out pretty early on that he's, you know, not the villain. So there's no one to suspect throughout the rest of the episode, and we never even find out, we never even get names or faces to these guys, you know, these oil pirates that end up being the villain. There was no mystery in this episode at all. I felt there was no mystery at all in the episode, and I didn't see any sort of questions that were lingering. It felt like the gang just got, you know, stuck and lost. They took what was coming at them, and they weren't even trying to pursue Redbeard and his pirate crew. They weren't even interested. Hell, had Shaggy and Scooby not fell through the hole, they would have just left. They would have been like, yeah, we're out of here. See you later. It's only because Shaggy and Scooby fell in their boat that they even pursued Redbeard and stopped his scheme. Without that, they wouldn't have given a shit. They would have been like, bye. You know, like, they didn't care. So it felt like it was a forced adventure, and there was no mystery at all. There was no mystique going on. So it just felt like a forced adventure on the gang that, you know, that they were disinterested in. They didn't care. They just did it because they had to, not because they wanted to. You know, they were obviously happy to catch them at the end, but they were never going to pursue Redbeard and his pirate crew had it not been for Shaggy and Scooby stowing away on their boat. There was also no clues in the episode either. Velma points out the footprints, but I don't consider that a clue. There's nothing pointing towards a suspect or a motive. You can maybe say the oil pipe could be a clue. I don't think it is. So to me, there's nothing that points towards a motive or a suspect. And there's nothing there at all. You know, there's no sort of clues that point anywhere. It's just the gang only pursue this adventure because they want to save Shaggy and Scooby, because they're their best friends. They're not going to leave them and ditch them. They're just doing it because Shaggy and Scooby are in danger. If they weren't in danger and they didn't fall through that trapdoor, they would have never batted an eye to this mystery. They would have been like, they would have just let Swampy Pete handle it. Even though they didn't know Swampy Pete was a good guy, but they would have just let him handle it. And then we have the atmosphere of the episode. I didn't feel any sort of atmosphere at all in this episode. There was no tension or suspense, no creepiness or eeriness, nothing there. The atmosphere was non-existent, really, because it was so bright and vibrant in this episode. It just kind of felt too normal. Like, there wasn't really much flavor to this setting. I guess, like I said, like, the setting and the villain can really help enhance an atmosphere, but also, like, the vibes you get for it. And with this, I kind of just feel like this just feels more like a forced adventure that didn't need to happen. And that's why there's really no atmosphere, because there's no stakes in the gang trying to be good Samaritans. There's no stakes at all. So to me, you know, the setting and villain don't help enhance the atmosphere, and nothing naturally in the episode helps enhance it either. And I know some Scooby-Doo shows can be bright and vibrant, and I don't mind that. I just feel like in this episode, I think I had the same problem with the Sonny and Cher episode, that I felt it was not really scary, not really interesting. You know, it just felt pretty non-existent and dull. And my final negative is that I thought the setting was dull. You know, I didn't like the setting at all. You had the swamp, you had the inn, you had the ghost pirate ship or barge, whatever you want to call it. And look, I'll commend them for the variety of setting, but I mean, even that, it's not enough to help save this episode. The variety of setting doesn't really help enhance it at all, because none of these settings are interesting. You know, a swamp, you know, an inn, a, you know, pirate ship. These all feel like standard stock settings that we've either seen before, executed better, or just feel too down to earth, too real, and not really interesting. They don't make these settings interesting, and that is, again, due to the fact that the villains are very weak and lame, and there's no atmosphere to speak of. So you end up with a dull amount of settings that just don't enhance the episode at all. So yeah, the setting, it was very dull. I didn't like it at all. There was no, even though it had variety, none of them stood out. None of them were interesting because it felt repetitive. It felt like we have seen these settings done better before and with more flavor. And it just didn't work in this episode. It was boring. I didn't like the settings. Overall, guys, I would not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. It has a small, like, tiny amount of positives, but for the most part, it has too many negatives for me to ignore. It feels like this episode was just very lazy, very rushed. It just felt like they didn't really put their heart and soul into this episode. And, you know, I thought before going into this, I thought I did like this episode, but just watching it, I just realized there were so many problems with it, and even with the positives that I had, Shaggy, Scooby, and the Globetrotters could have easily gone with those negatives had there not been a couple of things that had worked. You know, because Shaggy and Scooby and the Globetrotters, even though they were not that bad, they still weren't the best versions of what they could have been. I just gave them a pass because I felt satisfied with the way they were executed. But for me, this episode feels lazy. It feels like they didn't pour their heart and soul into this episode and create a good mystery with the Harlem Globetrotters. And I think that's a shame. But thankfully, there are more Globetrotters episodes. So this is not the last time we will see them. So hopefully, maybe they will learn from their mistakes from this episode and make it, you know, make a better episode for the Globetrotters in the future. I'm really hoping that's the case, but time will only tell, and we're not at those episodes yet. But yeah, I just don't recommend this episode. It's definitely the worst one I've watched so far. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? Do you think I'm being too harsh on it? Like, are there a lot more positives that you saw that I'm not seeing? You know, do you hate this episode? Are you like me? Do you think this was like a very lazy, very uninspired episode that, you know, just had too many problems to ignore and felt like they didn't execute it properly? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you just think it's okay, but it's not good or bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content, I'll have more Scooby Doo reviews on the way as part of my summer special and as part of Scooby Month. And maybe past that if you guys want more past September. But yeah, I have plenty more Scooby reviews on the way. And, you know, Scooby is my main focus on the channel. So Scooby will not be going away anytime soon. You can also follow me on Facebook where I have discussions about things we talk about on both my channels. And Twitch where I hope to live stream in the future. In my next video, I will continue my 2024 summer special with a re-review rather, of Season 1, Episode 8 of Scooby Doo Where Are You, which is Foul Play in Funland, the Charlie the Robot episode. I'm very excited to re-tackle this, you know, classic episode. I did like it the first time around, so I'm hoping that I'll still like it, and hopefully that'll be the case. So if you want to hear my updated thoughts on the Charlie the Robot episode, join me next time. But of course, after that, we will continue my reviews of the new Scooby Doo movies with Season 1, Episode 13 of the new Scooby Doo movies, titled The Haunted Horseman of Hagglethorne Hall, guest starring Davy Jones. And I don't really go back to this episode much. I don't remember much about it, so I don't have high expectations, and considering how poor the last two have been, I'm worried we're going to get on a bad streak of episodes, so I don't have high hopes for the Davy Jones episode. But, you know, I have my expectations are very low, but maybe it'll surprise me and maybe I will like it. I hope so. I hope we get a good episode. But we'll see if Davy Jones can deliver a good crossover episode. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the Davy Jones episode, then come join me after my re-review of the Charlie the Robot episode. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, peace out.
Scooby Doo, looking for you. Scooby Doo, where are ya? All the stars are here, waiting for you. Couldn't have a show without ya. Scooby